Hello folks, this is a little video about the Gateway 2000 E3110 model of computer. It's from 1998. It contains a Pentium 2 and it's not a whole lot to say about it, but there weren't many videos on YouTube about it, so I thought I'd make one quickly. So, as I understand from reading on the internet, Gateway's E-series computers were usually used by things like corporations and organizations rather than your kind of mom and pop customer. And that's kind of borne out with this computer, which, as you can see, still has asset tags on it. And in fact, one of the asset tags on the other side here mentions that it was used at a school. It says it's a property of a certain school district. Um, the You got your top case here. What's interesting, it looks like your typical kind of beige box kind of thing, but really only this top square here is metal. It's supported by the chassis internally, and these pieces on the side are like the front. They're just plastic, and they're held in with these small plastic clips that seem like they could very easily break. So if you see a computer like this, one of Gateway's models that use these plastic sides, like on eBay or something, sometimes you see that they're missing a side or maybe both sides, and I can see that that would be easy to occur with these since the plastic would get brittle with age and things like that. I've sticker bombed the case here. Nothing that special. Just doing some kind of silly stickers. There was actually a lot of rust in this particular one spot of the case, and the rest of the metal top shell was in like mint condition. So for the moment, I just did an easily reversible, shove some stickers over the rust, which I treated a bit to remove, but it still kind of looked a little ugly. Maybe I'll get around to painting the whole panel one day. So let's take a look inside, and the case is only held in with these two screws here. That's just part of the design. Maybe that was to help out IT departments who might be going in and out of these machines frequently. This was one of the last computers that I think Gateway manufactured that had the classic Gateway 2000 logo. Around late 1998, they changed their name, the company name, just to Gateway, I think, because it was getting to be close to the year 2000, and including 2000 in your name maybe seemed a little bit dated. Even though Gateway had come up with their name back in the 1980s, and it wasn't necessarily related to the year 2000 at all. But in any event, 1998 was when they switched over from using the classic logo as seen here to using the new green, Gateway logo. And in fact, you can see essentially these computers come up from time to time for sale, and I think it's more common to see them with the revised just Gateway logo. So anyway, I got those thumb screws out. You can just kind of pull the case off, as you see here. So, like I said, the that top shell, it was really just a little square, and it did not wrap around like you onto the sides like you'd normally see on a regular case. Instead, it's just supported at the top by the metal rails. And you can see the small plastic clips here from the sides of the case, which in my case, luckily they're in very good shape. So they're still holding the plastic sides on, but you could imagine that if you dropped the case a little bit or knocked something into it, it could probably crack and take those out. The front panel is also held in with these little clips that you could easily just pop up and move and take off. So it's actually kind of loosely held in there. So let's take a look at what you got. As you can see, you've got just like a typical CD-ROM drive and a 3.5-inch floppy disk. You've got the original hard drive here. I did take a look, but there wasn't anything super interesting on that. It made some awful sounds and booted into Windows 95 with the hard disk itself labeled GW2000, and presumably that's the original hard drive for the computer. It did have drivers on it for the video card, which I don't know how much you might be able to see here without me removing it, but it is, I believe it's an ATI 3D Rage Pro GPU, and it's in the PCI slot. This motherboard is what's called, I guess, it's based on the Intel 440LX chipset, which is kind of the Pentium 2 predecessor to the more, commonly known 440BX chipset, which is a very well regarded and very flexible Pentium 3 era chipset. So, mine being kind of the early or prototype kind of iteration of that, it's really designed just for Pentium 2 processors, which that's what I've got here. It's a Pentium 266 megahertz, the original CPU for the machine, as well as a giant heatsink on that. Get a load of that. I love these Pentium 2 heatsinks. They're so big. There's no CPU fan per se. However, Gateway's power supply here, as you can see, actually has a built-in side fan to blow some air at the CPU. And like most CPU fans, it also, blows air out at the outside and has some venting on the back as well. The sound card is one, or a variation of one that you see in a lot of Gateway 2000s, even going back to like the Pentium 1 era. It's a Sound Blaster 16, or really I think it might be what's called a Vibra or Vibra 16. Again, another kind of Creative Labs card compatible with Sound Blaster 16. Pretty good, kind of generic. Usually works pretty well with like Windows 9X and things like that. And it's a ISA sound card. And that's another good thing or a fun thing about these Gateway computers up to at least the Pentium 2 era, is that they still included a few ISA slots. So even as things moved into the PCI generation and Windows 2000 and then Windows XP and that sort of thing, and ISA slots kind of went away around 1998, 1999. At least with the Gateway 2000s, with the 440LX, and I think also the 440BX boards, when you get to a few of the Pentium 3 models of Gateway, they still included one, or in this case, two ISA slots. So that's very good for DOS compatibility for original old 90s ISA sound cards and things like that nature. So let's see, the old hard drive, it wasn't working very well, and I don't really use old hard drives anyway, just out of convenience. So I have rigged up here a StarTech IDE to compact flash card adapter. I have a 2 gigabyte card in there now. It's easy to just take that out and pop that into an adapter with my modern computer and transport a bunch of files over. I'll also mention this motherboard is recent enough to have 2 USB ports on the back. So I was able to load, I installed Windows 98 on this machine. It runs very well. And I was able to load on some USB drivers for Windows 98, and in that manner use relatively modern compact flash cards. In this case, I think it's a 128 gigabyte compact flash, sorry, not compact flash, but a 128 gigabyte USB thumb drive. Just, put some simple like DOS games and things on that, and as long as I'm in Windows 98 where the drivers are working, I can readily load those up and just treat it as an expansion to the hard drive, or a secondary hard drive where there's no concern for me about running out of space here. So I feel like I've pretty much said what I can say about this right now. The GPU, the Rage Pro GPU over here, it's a DirectX 6 compatible GPU, and that kind of tells you what era or what types of games you might be able to play with it. It's good for like mid 90s and late 90s stuff, but not so much others. And I have to go to take a call right now. Thank you very much for watching.